What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. and Matthews, break down everything I watch on the WWE Network, on Peacock, and now on Netflix, apparently. As today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Big Show show. This is about 2 years too late. The show came out almost, not exactly 2 years ago, but April of 2020. Very beginning of the pandemic. When everyone else was watching Tiger King, I was watching the Big Show show. I kid. I think I watched the first episode soon after they were released on Netflix in early April. I think I watched it like that same month. I didn't really get into it after that until like later on. Not really get into it, I don't want to say. But when I start a show, I finish it for the most part. Any show that I start, I end up finishing and watching the whole way through. This is the perfect show. And apparently, I think it still is on Netflix as of the last time I checked was about a year ago. Because it took me about a solid year to get through the entire show. And the reason being that when the pandemic first started, they put out the show in April of 2020. Didn't really get a lot of fanfare because of the pandemic and everyone talking about COVID. And, Tiger King was out on Netflix at that point. Not that Big Show would have been a hit or anything like that. But they put up a lot of content on Netflix. I think they put up 2 WWE movies, didn't they? They had that movie, The Main Event, and I thought they had another one. I know they just did Rumble recently. That's on Paramount+. I haven't seen that yet. That actually looks good. I think Roman Reigns and Becky Lynch voice characters in that. When I watch it, I'll probably talk about it here on the channel. But today I just wanted to talk about any random show, so I talked about the Big Show show. And I've been wanting to do this review video for a while. But anyway, so I had seen one episode in April when they first put it up, but I was probably going to watch the whole thing anyway. But the biggest thing in watching the show for me was that I started watching it with my younger sister. I have a younger sister who's around 9, 10 years old. At that point, was probably 8. And we started watching the show together. And because I thought she would like it, it's that type of show. It's a Disney Channel-esque show. You probably are well aware of this by now, considering it's 2 years late, and I'm putting this up in 2022. But if you've ever seen an episode, you know exactly what to expect. It is a Disney Channel level show. And I'm not talking about good Disney Channel either. I grew up on Disney Channel in the early 2000s, late 90s, but primarily early 2000s, mid 2000s on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and That's So Raven, Phil the Future, stuff like that. Those shows I can go back and watch, maybe out of nostalgia. Even those shows aren't great as far as the acting goes. This show is kind of that. In a nutshell, it's about Big Show, Paul White. I don't know if his name is Paul White in the show. I don't know what they call him as his actual name. I forget. But it's about him. It's not like he's playing a character. I guess he kind of is. But it's like a dramatized version of his life where he's done wrestling and he has to settle down as a family man. He's got a wife, 2 kids, and they bring in their cousin or something like that from Big Show's brother or whatever. There's 3 girls in the house, 4 actually if you include the mother, and then Big Show. And they just kind of have, again, the standard family show type formula where they have different lessons. And it does follow some of the stuff that happens earlier on, when the mom loses her job and stuff like that, is carried on from episode to episode. So it's not in my opinion anyway, you can go in and watch episode 5 and then go back and watch episode 2. You kind of have to watch them in order. It leads to a season finale type thing where Big Show has to contemplate whether he goes back to wrestling and whatever, because he gets offered. He's always missed wrestling because he's retired by this point. And there is one episode where Rikishi, I think, guest stars along with Mick Foley, maybe Mark Henry, I forgot. I think it was those 3. And that was the best episode of the whole bunch. So if you're a wrestling fan, watch that one. It's the cruise ship episode. I forgot exactly what number it is. But yeah, it's basically, that's the crux of the show, is Big Show settling down to be a family man, learning family lessons and stuff like that. The acting isn't the greatest. The stories aren't the greatest. It basically is what family shows like that have become by 2022. I don't know. I just feel like these type of shows weren't the greatest back in the 90s or 2000s. I don't really watch them anymore. Maybe I'm just being an old curmudgeon or whatever, but I just feel like they're not the same anymore. The Disney Channel type shows, now on Netflix, I guess, just aren't the best. This falls in that category. It's not a great show, but it is a great show, I think, and I will say this, and which is why I'm talking about it. I think it's a great show to watch with your kid, or if you have a really younger sibling, in that age frame from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Anything above maybe 12, they probably might not like it. In that teenage area, it's probably not for them. It's more of a kid show. But I liked watching it for Big Show, and I thought he did actually a very good job. I remember watching and getting on DVD when it came out, Knucklehead with the Big Show. It was not a great movie, but I thought Big Show did a good job with the comedy. He's always done very well with comedy and wrestling. Now he's in AEW, but largely for his career in WWE, always enjoyed him as a babyface doing comedy. And he's done well with that type of stuff in movies. I know he had a very short role in Jingle All the Way, but like that type of thing is perfect for Big Show. And I thought they really found something good for him to do in this show. It clearly wasn't a success enough for them to do a second season. They canceled it soon after. They did do a Christmas special. I think it went up around Christmas time in 2020. I think. It may have been up a lot earlier than that, but I watched it around Christmas, or a couple months later, in March of last year when I finished up the show with my sister. But the episodes are short. They're only around like 22 minutes on Netflix. You can get through the whole season relatively quickly. I'm just kind of busy and didn't really have any interest in finishing the show quicker than I did in 2020. But it was great for the pandemic. Like when my sister was home and I was watching her and helping with school and stuff like that, it was great for sort of stuff like that. And she liked it and she wanted to watch, and she would ask me all the time, hey, can we finish the show? And eventually we got around to doing it. So I will say that if you're a wrestling fan like me and you're going to go out and watch the show on your own and binge every episode, unless you're a psycho like me and that you finish everything you start, you're definitely not going to like the show. I would not recommend it for you. I would recommend it either showing it only to your kids or younger siblings or whatever, cousins, nephews, whatever, or watching it with them. I think it's cool to watch a couple episodes with them to get this side. I watched it for Big Show. And they kind of had a couple Hall of Fame appearances again from Mick Foley and I think Rikishi and Mark Henry as well. And there were a couple other actors on the show that I recognized, and it wasn't like unbearable. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. Definitely not an amazing show, and I could see why it wasn't picked up for a second season. But it was fine for what it was, and I thought they did as good of a job as they could with the show. So those are my thoughts on the Big Show in a nutshell. I know this video is way delayed, but I wanted to get to it eventually as I break down other, wrestling-related projects that I watch. I'm hoping at some point to get through the E! Network, what was it, the documentaries they did about a year ago. I watched, what was it, there were a lot of shows coming out at once, so I couldn't watch them all. The Hidden Treasure show, I might do a review on that, maybe. I like that. I may talk about that at some point. But there were so many shows coming out at one time, I just didn't have a chance to watch them all. But I did finish Big Show. I'm talking about it now, and those are my 2 cents. So for all 2 people that were curious, those are my thoughts on the Big Show. Thank you for watching, or listening rather, to my review here today. I appreciate it. And we'll have more videos, like more random shit like this here on Network and Chill, or just standalone videos talking about stuff like this. Like, I'm watching the Suicide Squad right now. I haven't had a chance with Chris to hook up and talk with him about the show, and Book of Boba Fett, which I'm also watching and enjoying. Moon Knight, I know, is coming out in March, so there's a lot to talk about. We'll get to all of it in due time. I just haven't had the time lately, and I was also sick a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Big Show, and I appreciate you guys checking out this review. If you want to check out more reviews and more videos here on the channel, be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe first and foremost. Also by hitting that bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. Have an awesome rest of your weekend, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.